This is Suzanne Stumbo, the Ag Agent for Pike County, and one of the things that has great potential for eastern Kentucky is ginseng and other herbs. And the ginseng has huge financial profit. We have several local buyers, and there's a lot of prospects for internet sales. And all the extension offices locally offer classes every spring.
I'm Keith Hackworth. I'm the County Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources in Floyd County. And I will be talking a little bit about municipal herbs, but primarily ginseng for production in eastern Kentucky. Herbs have been harvested from our forest lands for years, centuries. We have harvested and sold things like ginseng, golden seal, black cohosh, blue cohosh, mayapple, and a lot of other herbs. And basically we're talking about some of the potential growth and income from these type of herbs. Some can be produced basically on small scale for small farmers, and it can be a true economic benefit to you and your family. I'm going to talk a little bit about ginseng. Ginseng is the most popular herb that we have out there. In years past, the annual sales of just the root from ginseng has been over $5 million in the state of Kentucky alone. There's certain regulations on ginseng, and they do change from time to time. So you really need to check with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture's website, or you can check with your county extension agent and ask them to pull that information up for you. There's requirements on the maturity of the level of the plants that you're digging. Also, there's some requirements about harvesting seed. Also, the way you have to sell your dried roots. Basically, there is a cycle for most ginseng that goes, you start with a seed. The seed may take 18 months of dormancy before it will actually germinate. Then, producing ginseng may take as long as 7 years before you can actually get a harvestable root that you can truly market and get good money out of. So it does take a process. Ginseng, on one of the slides I have, is it produces by seed. The stalk dies each year, and it produces a little bud scar. It's on the underground neck, and that gives you an indication of how old that plant is. The older the roots, the more valuable they are, and they command a better price, as compared to this past year, where we were hearing, $500 range per pound for dried roots. We can grow these. We just have to find the proper sites. Sometimes you can grow with artificial shade, because these plants do require about 70 to 80% shade, and that's one thing that's the reason you're going to find them in a woodland setting. You can, like I said, you can grow them with artificial shade, but sometimes it may be better in the long run produce them inside the woodland itself. And here in eastern Kentucky, we have a lot of that. Most of us have a few acres of woodlands. Some of us may have a lot of acres. But that artificial shade is one way. Another method is what we call wild simulated, and the other one is woods grown. Each one has their benefits and issues. And I'll talk a little bit about budgets and some costs and stuff in a minute. But whenever you're looking for sites, the ginseng plant, they do require, shade. They do require a good, moist, rich soil. And that can't be wet. So you do not want areas that has standing water or heavy clay soils. That's just not a good location. In Kentucky, traditionally we look at the east or north-facing slopes. Those tend to be better sites for ginseng production. The other thing we want to consider is the soil pH. We're looking for ginseng between a 5.5 to 6.5 pH range. That's optimal. That's best conditions. And that soil must have, a good amount of calcium, because ginseng really requires calcium. So yes, like most other county agents, I still recommend a soil sample, no matter what. If you call me about any type of crop, I'm going to say, have you had a soil sample done? Well, same way with ginseng. You're going to plant seed. Most times it's the easiest way to get started with seed. It's like most other seed. You need to use natural mulches, leaf litter to help control weeds, help prevent any other problem conditions. It's just the best thing to do. It helps hold in some moisture. It's the best all around to do. You also need to be careful. There's better times of the year to plant seed than others. Sometimes you're talking about either early spring, February, March, or you can come back and do a fall planting, but you need to make sure you're only going about 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep. And that's it. The amount of tillage, the amount of other effort really is going to depend on the type of production you're going into. So we'll talk about that in just a second. That plant will start growing, and like I said, a 5-year-old plant it takes a 5-year-old plant to be considered mature, and that's when they're going to produce, berries. You need to replant your, berries, the seed in your berries, fairly close to where you got it. And there are some good indications of plants that will also give you indicators about where's the best place to plant ginseng. A lot of folks will call those ginseng pointers. And you're talking about maples are one of the big ones. There we go. If you find a maple, 86% of the time, you're going to find, ginseng, if it's in a good location, suitable location. Another, the plant Indian turnip. Also, May apples. So those are some things to look for. If you're seeing sites like that on your farm, on your property, just realize those may be the better locations to also raise some ginseng. You've got dogwoods, Solomon seal. Some of those are just additional ones. But now once you get on up the hill and you start running into some other plants, if you see a lot of hickory, that may not be that great of a site. So you've got an area there that you're looking for. Okay, as we've talked about some just general production, some basics of what to do. Let's look at a little bit of cost. And what I have pulled up here, this is an example of wild simulated ginseng production. Basically, you're looking at yields on an 8 to 10 year production cycle, $150, and we say $260 per pound. Well, that was about half of what it was last year, because it's like most crops, the value goes up and down, up and down. So last year, it was even, the price you received per pound was even better. But the variable cost, you're still talking about probably a little bit of lime, seed, Now that $70, that's typically unstratified seed. There's a difference between stratified seed and unstratified. Stratified seed has gone through that 18-month dormancy. So it's ready to seed, ready to plant. Where this $70 mark is probably not. You probably still need to go through that cycle before it's actually ready to go on the ground. We're estimating, 320 hours at $6 an hour. Some phosphorus and potassium, which, the soil sample results will give us an indication of what you need. We're estimating some tools, the time to harvest, time to dry. So we're talking about a production cost of $7,158.50. But up here, you're talking about, a yield. Don't let this get to you. I'm going to show you a comparison here in a minute. So, that's wood simulated. That's basically growing them in the woods, but you're giving them a little bit of care. You're basically coming in, keeping weeds down. That's what wild simulated is. Now, we're going to talk about wood grown. Woods grown. This is basically going that extra little effort. You're getting production quicker. This is actually farming in the woods. You're talking about 600 pounds, but this is not this type of ginseng. The dealers, the buyers can tell the difference. The roots get larger, but you don't have those bud scars. So they discount the price a little bit. So we're estimating $100 per pound. Compared to the other, which you're talking, 260 or better. Because the wood simulated is basically what you're considering the same as wild. This is a little bit more effort on your part, more labor intensive, a little bit more inputs, but you're going to take a cut on the cost, on what you get per pound. So you're talking about actually doing more seed. You're having more hours of labor, a little bit more of your inputs. So your production cost is $15,683.50. Your estimated income was $60,000. But let me show you this next one. This is a compare and contrast on about a half an acre basis. And you notice I didn't really show you the benefit, or show you one on artificial shade. It is so expensive just to get set up and do this without the benefit of the natural woods. It's not economically sound. But I just went ahead and showed those numbers just so you'd have that, in case you ever want to refer back to it. But it's just, the cost is just not feasible. So, woods cultivated, you're talking about a lot less time compared to the wild simulated. You're adding more seeds per acre. Your labor, you're more than doubling the amount of labor per acre it's going to take. The cost is going to be more. Yes, you're going to get more pounds. But look at the dollar value. $100 a pound versus $300 a pound. So your gross income, but look at your net. Woods cultivated, you can make money. You're talking about, just under $6,000, profit. But on the same amount of ground, you're almost tripling your money by doing a wild simulated. That's basically, if you found ginseng, if you found wild ginseng in an area, just go in there and plant. Yes, it don't hurt a bit to go through, rake a little, natural leaf litter as mulch back over it. Yes, it don't hurt a bit if we're in a drought situation to maybe water a little bit to make sure that diseases and insects are not an issue. Maybe keeping down some of the wildlife problems that may occur. So it takes a little bit more management, but this will be a beneficial. You can provide some additional income to your family. Now, not everybody's going to have half an acre, but it's reasonable to have maybe a tenth of an acre. So anything that can be done to add a little bit of income to you and your family is basically a plus. Now there are, ginseng is just one type of herb. There's others. There's a lot more out there, but like I said, ginseng by far is the big dollar one. Probably the next one would be golden seal. But at the University of Kentucky, we do have some good publications that I do recommend you get from your county extension agent. We have one that was prepared by Dr. Terry Jones. He's retired now. He was one of our horticulturists that was based over at Quicksand. It's basically on ginseng and golden seal. We also have 2 forestry publications that are very good resources. Just go in and ask for FOR-91 or FOR 117. Both of those are dealing with medicinal plants. Another good resource, is HO 73. It's a horticultural pub, but it is sources of herb seed and root sources. It's still a good source to be able to look and buy seed and roots if you want to do some planting. I know there's some limitations and some difficulties with this type of plantings. Just start small, give it a try, and I wish you well.